Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Dominic, Lyndon Johnson,
Present.
Jackson, Lynn,
Here.
Bowman, Cawthorn, Gates
Present.
Watts,
Present.
Middleton, Atkins, Chavez,
Here, sir.
Smith,
Here.
Lewis Johnson.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. We will have an invocation by Reverend Dr. R. Timothy Jones, and I will pledge allegiance by Commissioner Mike Middleton.
Let us pray. God, we are so grateful for life, for health, and for strength. Thank you for our Caddo Parish community and all of the wonderful people who've chosen to live here. And we thank you, God, for this body of representatives who are here, God, to secure those things that are in the best interest of the citizens here. Our prayer is that this time would be civil, and God, that we would attack issues without attacking each other. I pray, God, that everything that transpires here today not only brings glory to you, but brings good to the people who live in Caddo Parish. This is our prayer now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Everyone, please face the United States flag. Place your right hand over your heart, or if you're a military veteran, bring your brow salute. Recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, Mr. Clerk.
And we have agenda additions.
I see none. Is there any agenda additions?
Okay.
No agenda addition.
Okay.
Next.
There being none, we move to citizen comments.
Okay. Citizens who wish to address the commission must fill out a comment card and forward to the president or the clerk of the commission. Citizens' comments will be limited to 3 minutes. I'll call them as I have received them. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce the name. Anna Cole. Kevin, can you hear me back there? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I speak from my heart, but this time I kind of wrote something from my heart. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Special angels for the great city of Shreveport. I met some angels today and asked them to always be near our great city, all citizens, and especially to help us come together as one and that they never go away. They said they would surround us with their wings opened wide, and we could always feel their presence with them by our side. As they were leaving and I was saying goodbye, from their wings fell feathers, and I knew they would be with us forever. These special angels sent their love and said for sure that our great city of Shreveport and all citizens would be united with love, compassion, and respect for one another, and our history, including all monuments, statues, streets, etc., would always be blessed and protected by our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ from heaven above. What a beautiful miracle for all of this to come true. Inasmuch as a tax-paying citizen, in all fairness, I was not given the opportunity to vote. I can only pray that we add to our history and not take away. What a wonderful example our city could be. Having the Confederate monument along with the statue of the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King and the other historical plaques or monuments all together for all to see. And what a beautiful blessing. All together for all to see, and the beautiful blessing that we are united and all are happy, no sadness. In Jesus' name, I ask, God bless you. Thank you, Anna Cole.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael Thomas.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yes, just projecting to the microphone.
Okay, so I'm here to try to bring a problem to everyone's attention. I think it's the political legitimacy of the Caddo Parish Commission. There's a bunch of issues that I'm sure the public's aware of. Our former disgraced commissioner, Michael Williams, the money that he improperly used was appropriated by this body itself. There wasn't a proper oversight. that undermines the legitimacy of this body in the public's eye. On April 29th of this year, the public voted down all of the millage renewals, and I think that that's a pretty strong statement. If I were on the commission, I would view it as kind of a slap in the face to say whatever you folks are doing, the public is not behind you. Turnout was also low. That's a bad thing too. The commission created a citizen advisory group to help them get an idea of what to do with the memorial, and they did not vote to remove it. So the subcommittee here from the commission taking a different approach and saying we should get rid of it and replace it is basically throwing the Democratic and Republican tradition that we have completely under the bus. And I would advise you that if you want to move in a direction to get the citizens to support your work and support you and make this a better place to live and get rid of the crime and get the children educated and all that stuff, do not take the citizen advisory group's opinion and completely disregard it and vote on some other principles. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Nichols, and if the audience would please refrain from clapping and cheering after comments on any side of this particular issue. Jackie Nichols.
Jackie Nichols, 433 Albert, Shreveport. The rush to judgment to move our Confederate monument that is being led by Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson is appalling. The Commission's Organized Citizens Advisory Committee spent 9.5 months and 227 volunteer man-hours coming up with a fair compromise solution that was completely disregarded. In the September 5th vote by the Long Range Planning Committee, it is curious at the least and possibly unethical that Commission President Jackson chose to add a member to this committee less than a week before this vote, an action that caught members of this committee unaware. In that September 5th meeting, Commissioner Dominic attempted to open the discussion of the issue, at least to have it on the table, the cost to the parish for moving the monument. The public hearings allowed differing opinions, yet you have not even discussed what went on, what was said, or what the Citizens Advisory Committee recommended. The fact is that the majority of citizens commenting at those hearings were opposed to moving the monument. This is an unfortunate truth that this commission is attempting to avoid. The Citizens Advisory Committee offers a solution that brings something positive to everyone. I ask that you should discuss this recommendation before any vote.
John Andrew Prime. God bless you.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Members of the Caddo Parish Commission, at your last work session, I briefed you on efforts to secure a grave marker for Seaman recruit Raymond Rance Davis, who lost his life in the Vietnam War and has rested in an unmarked grave the last 45 years. We are fairly certain his grave was the last unmarked grave of a known body-returned Vietnam War combat death in the state of Louisiana and likely the nation. The regulation U.S. military upright marker was received August 16, 2017, and was set in place atop his grave in Carver Memorial Cemetery late Saturday, September 16, 2017. Weather permitting, his sole and surviving sister, Velma Jean Thompson, and his niece, Evelyn Jeanette Bledsoe, will unveil the marker at 3 p.m. Sunday, October the 1st, 2017. I have presented the clerk of the commission with copies of the invitation to this event, as well as the obituary that ran in the Shreveport Sun shortly after Davis's death on the heavy cruiser USS Newport News on 1 October 1972. While today we honor and praise the men and women who died in Vietnam, that war was unpopular and controversial during many of the years in which it was waged and for many years thereafter. While we honor Seaman Recruit Davis now, it is possible that a century hence, other elected officials in your seats may debate the merits of keeping in place markers such as the one we will dedicate in 2 weeks, or remove them as reminders of an unpleasant and unjust war. I ask you to keep that in mind as you debate later in this meeting the removal of another marker monument to soldiers of an earlier and equally divisive war. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Allen.
Hello, I'm Deborah Allen. I live in Caddo Parish in District 4. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak on behalf of hundreds of ACLU supporters in Caddo Parish. It is our belief that the Confederate monument in front of the Caddo Parish Courthouse was designed to celebrate white supremacy by the very language of the organization that claims to own it. The very people hurt by it are the ones who were not allowed to express an opinion when it was erected, but they are speaking out now because they were not allowed to have a voice 100 years ago. If they say that it hurts them, we should respect their opinion. We can learn as a community, a state, and a society to face that history in its totality. Slavery spawned immense suffering. Forcing those families who were victims to live alongside a monument to those who induced their suffering is not the road to reconciliation. A courthouse must stand for impartiality and equal justice. Many have spoken of the message of inequality they perceive at the Caddo Parish Courthouse because of the presence of that Confederate monument. That alone should be reason enough to remove it. We are not aware of anyone who has said that their access to court is enhanced by the presence of that monument. In fact, many are diminished by it, but no one has said they have benefited from it. What public purpose is served by retaining something that hurts many but helps none? Thank you.
Thank you. Cassie McDaniels. Cassie McDaniels.
My name is Cassie McDaniel, and I live in Keithville, Louisiana. I'm here again to address the issue of the Confederate monument on the parish courthouse grounds. As a parish, we have wrestled with this issue for months, and you have heard the pro-monument contingent saying it honors war heroes who were protecting their rights. You've heard myself and many others argue for its removal, that it is a monument to treason, revisionist history, and racism. Some of you have concerns as to the cost of removal, even as you consider appropriating $200,000 to erect a fence around the courthouse grounds and said monument, citing safety concerns. I would remind you that the only people making these threats, carrying weapons, and posing as a threat to public safety are those vehemently opposed to the removal of the monument. If a cost is to be incurred, wouldn't the money be better spent removing that which has become such a rallying point for violent extremism? We have a world-renowned museum in our city that has expressed a desire to house the monument and may even have money for the removal as well as installation. What of the proposal to erect more statues on either side to tell the whole story? There's not enough room on that whole courthouse grounds to tell the story of slavery, Jim Crow, lynchings, and unjust laws that were state-sponsored terrorism against the black citizens and taxpayers of this parish. The idea of this compromise proposal is political expediency writ large and does nothing to correct the effects of oppression and underlying injustices that the Confederate monument represents. This parish still struggles with the legacy of institutional racism, which plays out in our streets, classrooms, and courtrooms every day. Removing this prominent symbol to racism would represent to the people of this parish, state, and country that we want to move away from all of that and forward to a new and equitable future. For those that would vote to keep the monument, this is no longer about preserving history, if that was ever the case, because we have an option to place it in a museum, which is where history is best studied. It is by its placement, and it has always been about power and privilege and who wields it. If the idea of removing a statue that represents oppression to the black citizens and others of this parish is something that you are loath to do, then you need to own the fact that on some level you agree with and support the messages and actions of those who have stood in these chambers and promised a new civil war and threatened violent reprisals if it is removed. To vote to remove that monument would send a powerful message to the residents of this parish that we no longer align ourselves with violent thugs who exercise their power by keeping the black population disenfranchised and in fear. We can no longer live under the legacy of Bloody Caddo, the lynching capital of Louisiana, or as supporters and perpetrators of the Colfax massacre, or of Police Commissioner Dartois, who led mounted police into a church to club the pastor for daring to organize black people to vote. You all have an opportunity to right a great wrong and to shoulder the responsibility of leadership and bring us out of our dark past and into the light of a new day where we can begin to shape a future for this parish that extends equality to all of its citizens, where we don't have to live beneath the shadow of that monument and all it represents anymore.
Will Elliott.
Good afternoon. I'm resident of Caddo Parish. I'm here today to voice my support for moving the monument. There's been much talk about how moving the monument is destroying history. I'd argue that moving the monument to a nearby cemetery museum is correcting history. Like probably most white people in Caddo Parish, I was raised under the myth of the lost cause of the Confederacy. When I was a child, this monument served to reinforce that narrative. It wasn't until much later that I realized that that was its actual intent. This monument was meant to revise history and portray the Confederacy as honorable, while obscuring the history of lynchings and racial oppression that gave Bloody Caddo its name. They say that slavery and the civil rights movement were a long time ago, but I'd argue that the process of reconciliation is far from over, and there's much progress still needed. I mean, I don't remember desegregation, but my mom was in school during desegregation. It wasn't a long time ago. I'm sure many of you were alive during that period. Moving the monument won't fix our parish overnight, but it's a reasonable action that's long past due. I encourage all of you to vote for removal. Lastly, I just feel I need to point out that I'm born and raised in Caddo, homeowner, parent, veteran, descendant of Confederate soldiers. And I've been involved in Take It Down since the beginning. And there's been a lot of wild accusations about us. George Soros didn't pay us. We aren't Yankees. We aren't carpetbaggers. We aren't Antifa. I mean, we probably are anti-fascist, but we're also committed to nonviolence. Nonetheless, I just want to say thank you for giving this time, and hope you take it down. Move it to cemetery and museum. Have a good day.
Thank you. Debbie House.
Hello, my name is Debbie Hollis, and I'm in Matthews District 4. And I brought with me today the 13,352 supporters who have signed our petition to remove the Caddo Parish Confederate Memorial. And for clarification, I would like to read exactly what our petition says, because most of the petitioners, the 5 of us, are in this room today, and we've received quite a few threats publicly and privately. And I just want to clarify what the petition actually says and what these 13,352 people support. We, the residents of Caddo Parish, submit that the time has come for the removal of the Confederate statue at the courthouse. It is time to take immediate action to remove this monument to slavery, sedition, and racial oppression. Additionally, it is our assertion that this statue subverts and undermines our core principles of liberty and justice for all. It is unconscionable that anyone going to the courthouse, a place promising equal justice for all, should be forced to do so under a shadow of injustice and oppression. We appeal to the Caddo Parish Commission to outline and commit to a process for the timely and definitive removal, not the destruction, of this statue. Louisiana is home to numerous Civil War museums and historic sites. Any of these dedicated locations would be an appropriate venue for the Confederate monument, and we listed the link to the Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism that has all of the Confederate historic sites listed. The legality of removing Confederate monuments, period, has been affirmed by both the City of New Orleans and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which, if a decision here were needed in an appellate trial, then it would go to the Fifth Circuit. And we also have a link to that court's decision. The monument and its property, according to the Caddo Parish attorney Donna Frazier, do not belong to the Daughters of the Confederacy. This is in, she stated so in a special meeting of the Long Range Planning and Special Projects Committee on June 9th, 2016, and that decision is public record and can easily be researched online. No competitive bid process is required by law if removal of the statue costs less than $152,400. The City of New Orleans contracted the expeditious removal of the General P.G.T. Beauregard statue for $150,000. Therefore, the Caddo Parish Commission should be able to procure a removal contractor for $150,000 or less, reasonably. The statue has only recently been accepted into the National Park Service's National Register of Historic Places program. Its entry date into the register was January 19th, 2014, 3 years ago. The statue was also categorized as representation of the cult of the lost cause, which is described by the National Park Service as, quote, dominating Southern cultural history in the early 20th century, and is still alive today. Thank you.
Next, we have Nikita Williams.
Hello, Nikita Williams, 3015 Independence Avenue, Shreveport. Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you once again about the future of the Confederate monument in front of the Caddo Courthouse. So my professional background is that I have been trained as both a physician and as a researcher. As such, despite being guilty, as many people tend to be, of relying on impassioned pleas to make my points, I have, for better or worse, usually defaulted to both rationality and empirical evidence when making arguments. It is precisely for this reason that I spoke to this commission on 2 prior occasions in order to highlight and call attention to the glaring issues regarding the selection and composition of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Issues that threaten to undermine the integrity with which you asked them to impartially evaluate the implications of the future of the Confederate monument. With respect to time today, I will not outline those points again, other than to remind the commission that weeks before the final recommendation to keep this monument where it is and to instead flank it with other equal but opposite monuments was even proposed, and certainly before it was rendered by the committee, by a vote divided by racial lines, I might add, I predicted to you, the commission, that this exact proposal would emerge from the committee. I cautioned you at that time that this recommendation would not represent any productive dialogue or discussion or synthesis of prior listening sessions or correspondence received, and rather was the machination of certain members of the committee to keep the status quo. And just like clockwork, at the last work session, Ms. Nichols urged the commission to lean on this recommendation as justification for voting to keep the monument on courthouse grounds. Further, at that time, she rattled some percentages of tallies of who recommended what at local listening sessions. Again, as a professional researcher, I must remind the commission that there is no way to pigeonhole the variety of potential recommendations and opinions voiced at those sessions into a simple keep or remove vote. Nor is there a way to translate data from these sessions, which were conducted in areas that do not reflect the composition of the parish and also fail to account for the emails and other communication the committee received, into any kind of usable, data-driven argument for voting to keep the monument. Collecting these comment cards was not controlled. There was no unbiased recruitment. It was not a representative sample, and it did not use non-leading survey, among other things. I could go on here, but I assume you get the point. At this time, I'm not sure how much more explicit I can be in voicing my concern that to lean on the Citizens Advisory Committee's recommendation as rationale for voting to keep the monument would be to know and to admit the truth about this deception and to tell your constituents and fellow parishioners that you are perfectly okay with it. Thank you.
Thank you. John Ratcliffe.
Good afternoon. Really very briefly, I passed around, I think all of you have a copy of a slightly revised version of what the plaque in the committee recommendation was, the Citizens Advisory Committee recommendation was. It includes a couple of pieces of information I did not have when we put that together, and so I've added that in. With respect to the plaque, I would encourage the commission to consider whether it votes to remove the monument or to leave the monument there, or to leave the monument there with some additional items, that if it doesn't do anything else, that it put a plaque up that sets the monument in historical context. In addition, if you do decide to remove the monument, my understanding is there quite likely will be lawsuits and so forth, so there may be some delay before it's actually removed. And in that case, it would be worthwhile having the plaque there during that period of time. That's all I have. Thank you.
Carl Staples.
Good afternoon. My name is Carl Staples. I live in Caddo Parish. I've been a resident for the past 30-something years, and I am for removing the Confederate monument from in front of the courthouse due to the fact that it jeopardizes the very essence of fair and equal justice. Its legacy is such that it cannot be, say, looked upon in the realm or the perspective of, say, heritage or history. It is a very unique situation, and it must be resolved. I am the proof in the pudding, so to speak. In 2009, I was called to be a juror on the Felton Dorsey murder case. I had to refuse because of the fact that they were flying the Confederate flag and you had the monument in front of a court of law. So if someone would always say that, well, it's not true that you have an influence from, say, symbolism like this, then I am here. I am the proof. I had to refuse to serve on that jury due to the fact that the flag and the monument were there. So once again, I'd like to say I'm for the removal of the Confederate monument. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you going to be around, Mr. Staples? Will you be around? Okay. R.J. Johnson.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. R.J. Johnson, former chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee. I just wanted to make a couple of things clear to you guys. And I heard some people challenge President Jackson's ability to change committees or assign committees. That is his role and responsibility, as you are aware, as president of the commission. As president of the commission, just like all presidents prior to him, he's an ex officio member of those committees. Just as I was chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee, I was an ex officio member of those committees as well. But some members challenge the ethics of somebody's ability to do their job, the job that you've elected them to do. And that's not fair, because he has that ability to do that. You all sitting around the horseshoe have the ability to vote your conscience, vote how you want to vote on this issue. This issue has been going on for a very long time. And as Dr. Williams states, there are a number of concerns that have come up about the makeup of the Citizens Advisory Committee that have come up to you. There have been concerns about members of the Citizens Advisory Committee manipulating the process to fit them. You have a duty today, as you well know, to decide the fate of this monument, whether it is following the Citizens Advisory Committee recommendation, who I will tell you that I did not vote for. But at the end of the day, you have always been well within your right to either follow the recommendation that was submitted by the committee, or you have the right to do your own thing. I support your ability. Whatever you decide today is whatever you are going to decide. What I want to make sure is people realize that throughout this process, there have been members of the process who have endeavored to make sure it was fair, who have endeavored to make sure it was transparent, who made sure that everyone who wanted to have a voice got a voice. There were members of the committee who pushed people in certain directions to say they were for the removal or against the removal. That happened. And I'm not sure if you can be impartial if you're pushing people to say one thing over the other. That did happen. So when you look at the makeup of the committee, and you look up at the makeup of the committee that you appointed, the committee was stacked one way or the other. At that point, we asked you to appoint a 10th member. You declined to do that because we were further along in the process. I was asked to vet those members who submitted their submitted their names to be appointed to the vacancy, and I did that at the request of the committee chairman. But again, this commission decided not to fill that 10th seat. That's okay. We continue to do our work. But what I don't want anybody to believe is that the process that we went through, in my opinion, and by my support in making sure that everybody in this community was heard that wanted to be. Yes, we had people from all over the world who put in information and who said what their comments were. And we definitely appreciate that. But understand that everybody in this process who was leading this process, both Commissioner Jackson and I, have always acted with the parish in mind. Thank you.
Have no more citizens' comments.
Okay. It's time we'll move from citizens' comments. We have no visitors, no old business. We move to new business. Authorized introduction of ordinance number 5716, amending the budgets of estimate revenues and expenditures for the Building Maintenance Fund, Capital Improvement Fund, General Fund, Health Tax Fund, Oil and Gas Fund, Parks and Recreation Fund, Public Works Fund, and the Solid Waste Fund for the year 2017 to terminate completed or lapsed capital projects.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Dominic, second by Commissioner Atkins, to move this to Thursday. Please vote. Seeing no, not on board. Vote. That passes 12-0.
Authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5717 to deem property surplus and authorize the sale of surplus property owned by the Parish of Caddo.
Move for Thursday.
Moved by Commissioner Matthew Lynn, second by Commissioner Chavez.
That's right.
Please vote to move to Thursday. That passes 12-0.
Authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5718 to amend section 32-46 of the Code of Ordinances relative to the parish courthouse grounds.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
Moved by the chair, second by Commissioner Milton. Please vote. If anybody would like an explanation, there's a synopsis attached to it, so you can go back through and see what that is. Feel free to give myself or Attorney Bernstein a call. That passes 11-1 to move to Thursday.
Authorize resolution number 69 of 2017 recommending the removal of the Confederate monument from Caddo Parish Courthouse Square.
Move to advance to October 19th, regular session.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Lyndon Johnson, second by the chair. Please vote. That passes 8-4.
Authorize resolution number 70 of 2017. Resolution recommending the placing of additional monuments at Caddo Parish Courthouse.
So moved. To Thursday.
Moved by Commissioner Dominic, second by Commissioner Atkins. Please vote.
You want to talk about it?
Anybody want to speak on the motion? Okay, go ahead. Speak to it.
What happened on the previous motion?
It was moved to October 19th.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said
He's moved to October 19th?
That's correct.
Commissioner Atkins, myself, and Commissioner Chavez have basically placed a resolution before you guys, and it's not a vote today, it's just a vote to move it to Thursday. I'd like to get this over with. I mean, it's been drug out long enough. I don't know why the other resolution was moved to October, but this resolution will be on agendas for Thursday. I would ask that we go ahead and basically this resolution upholds what the subcommittee had recommended. I'll talk more about that on Thursday and go into more details, but I just ask that this go ahead and move to Thursday at this time, please. That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Atkins, I believe you had the second as well.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. First, let me begin by saying that I'd like to formally state that bigotry, hate, racial injustice cannot and should not be tolerated. I feel no hatred or animosity towards any group or any individual. However, I believe that in recent weeks we've seen an overzealous lashing out against anything Southern or Confederate across the United States of America. There's been an attempt to purge any document or any historical, an attempt to purge any monument or any document hinting of the Confederacy. And I think that this has gone too far. I believe that one day historians of the world will look back to this period and view it with regret. Much of the dialogue supporting the removal of the monument currently revolves around the fact that, one, the monument makes some people of the population feel uncomfortable when they are forced to reflect on the portion of the nation's history when slavery was practiced. And two, that a monument of this nature is deplorable when it's located in front of the courthouse, a place of justice. I understand these two arguments. I respect these arguments, and I cannot refute these arguments. However, there's another fact which I also cannot refute. And this other unrefutable fact is that there are a number of people in our population who would also be saddened if the monument were removed. The data collected by the Citizens Advisory Committee indicated that a modest majority of the citizens said that they would like to see the monument remain. These people are not white supremacists. They are not neo-Nazis. Most of these people are just ordinary people like myself who enjoy history and enjoy our local culture and do not want to see it erased. Do the feelings of these people matter? I think that they do. The proposal to remove the monument is an effort by one side to poke the other side in the eye and claim a victory as if this were a football game, where we have winners and we have losers. I believe that a compromise position is merited, a position that does not have clear winners and losers, and a position that does not tear down, but rather a position that builds us up, a position that allows all of our citizens to work together to add an additional monument or additional monuments to the courthouse lawn that will reveal more of our rich and diverse history. Let's not go down the divisive path of tearing down history. Rather, let's pursue a path of building something together. So for that reason, I'm supporting the recommendation of the Citizens Advisory Committee. Thank you.
I'm next in there. Attorney Frazier. I'm looking at it and I see that it says to uphold the Citizens Advisory Committee, but I see where it says that it says be it further resolved that to design, plant, and erect the monuments and plaque designated herein, the parish will or shall, will and shall be the same, right?
Yes.
Appropriate no more than $85,000. Any additional monies needed will be raised through solicitation of private funds. So this seems like more so an ordinance. It should be an ordinance. Could you explain why was it drafted, or is there a reason why it was drafted as a resolution as opposed to an ordinance?
Because this is an expression of, this is not the actual appropriation or an actual appropriation, which would be an ordinance. What it is that they were, what I was told to draft would be an expression of the will of the path that would proceed. And then the ordinance would be to draft any monies. That would be your ordinance, to draft the monies and go ahead and take that.
So we would pass this, which would it set aside $85,000?
No, it will not. This will not set aside any monies.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. So when I do my resolution to express our will to set aside some money, there's not going to be any.
No, that when you want to appropriate some money, you need to do an ordinance.
Right. But when I want to express.
When you just want to express your will and we have a choice of whether we're going to pay attention or not,
Okay.
then you use the resolution.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had an apples to apples comparison. Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. I'll be paying attention if you make one, so don't worry about that.
Right.
If other people don't, I will. I'm in favor of this moving to Thursday. Obviously, the Citizens Committee met, and they met over a long duration, and I'll speak more on this on Thursday, but I feel that we need to back them and support them on the hard work that they did. And when everybody else is tearing stuff down, I'd like to see our parish be a little bit on the forefront and start building stuff up as far as unity and togetherness. So I'm looking forward for this pass on Thursday, guys. That's all, President.
Okay. I see Commissioner Bowman for the first time.
Yes, sir. I was just reading, I know it was expressed, but I was wondering about this $85,000. Where did that figure come from, and what could we erect for $85,000?
Commissioner Atkins and I worked on this, but that was part of his. If you can, I'll let him answer that if you can.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
We look back at the original
1,000.
contribution by the police jury of $1,000 in 1903, I believe it was. And we took that and compounded it. We compounded that $1,000 at a 4% rate, which I believe is a generous rate, but slightly higher than historical inflation rates. But if you compound $1,000 from 1903 to 2017, you come to just under 85,000, and so we just rounded up in an attempt to err on the side of caution.
Gotcha. And so, but I'm sorry. So that equals to 85. But I was wondering, that's just for one, and the recommendation was supposed to be more than
it's
one.
That's intended to be seed money for the project.
Okay.
To retain counsel, artistic counsel and architectural counsel on on how to actually build the sculpture, what these sculptures might represent, how much it might cost to build them, what materials will be used, all, price it all out and get the ball rolling. That's the intention of this seed money.
Okay, so it's not.
And importantly, it's the financial equivalent of $1,000 contributed to the Daughters of the Confederacy in 1903.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clearing. Yes, sir.
Okay. Vice President, I'm sorry. It's Commissioner Lyndon Johnson.
Thank you. Over the course of a couple of months, we've heard that there were issues with some of the people that were on the committee, being that they were either a daughter of the Confederacy or sons of the Confederation, and people who recommended them to that particular advisory panel knew that. So how can you have an unbiased decision when you basically are biased going in? That's one thing. The second thing is when you look at the police jury minutes, which everybody has a copy of it, it basically said that the police jury at the time reserved the land for them to use. They didn't give it to them, they just reserved it. We sit here and I've heard that history is going to be erased. Well, we're not trying to erase history. And this has been a compromise because a long time ago, within the time that I've been serving down here, there was a movement to remove the monument, but take it down, and then not have a home to put it in. Right now, what we're saying is we want to move it and put it in the rightful place. So if you say it's historical, it has some meaning, it should go into a museum and not in front of the courthouse. The courthouse is not the place for it. In the time in which it was erected and put in place, everyone did not have the right to say that they oppose it. And if they did oppose it, they might have been in one of them trees in front of the courthouse. So now we are here saying that it's historical. We're gonna put it in a place where people could go to it, which would be a museum. And the Louisiana has a state museum. People can go to it, go look at it, look at the history of Louisiana, and also see this statue there. So it's not erasing history. It's not destroying history. It's just moving history into the proper place for it to be, and that would be in the museum. Thank you.
Commissioner Atkins. I'm sorry. Commissioner Dunn, Vice President.
Okay. I just want to go over a little bit, a few things. The facts are the Caddo Parish Police Jury passed a resolution in 1903 providing $1,000 to the Daughters, granting them permission to place the monument on the courthouse grounds. I'm just going to read this. Some of this. It says, the Monument Association be given, okay, the front plot or portion of the courthouse square at a site for the monument. It was moved by one of the police juries, Mr. Young, that $1,000 be allowed and the front plot of the courthouse square be reserved for that portion. Apparently there was never an active donation. That's another fact. Number two, we as a commission have admitted, I think, that.
Can you say what you just said?
What's that?
That last one.
I said, I don't think that there were ever a donation that was actually ever recorded or an act of legal conveyance from the Caddo Parish Police Jury to the daughters, if I'm correct. Is that correct, Donna?
That's correct.
Okay. Number two, we have admitted, our legal staff, everybody has admitted that the Daughters of the Confederacy owns that monument. It is not our monument. It is the Daughters' monument. Am I correct on that issue?
I think there's a little bit of gray area there, but, you know.
Well, that was not what my understanding was. I know there are a lot of different opinions about the Civil War and how that was fought. I'm not going to get into that, but I do know this, that this past year, the Caddo Parish Commission appointed a subcommittee to make a recommendation. They had hearings. We just heard that they spent over 9.5 months, over 200-something hours. Why have a subcommittee if we're not going to at least consider and uphold their recommendation? In their 3-page report, they state some very important information. The stated purpose of the monument was to be in memory of the brave soldiers who participated in the Civil War and a memorial to the dead Confederate soldiers from Caddo Parish. In 1958, the Congress recognized the Confederate soldiers as American soldiers with all rights and honors, sensibilities, and etc. The monument is listed as a National Register of Historical Places. There is no recommendation, and they say this, that the committee can make which will not leave at least a significant minority of the parish residents displeased. It was important because that's where the last flag for the Confederacy was placed. The resolution that Commissioner Atkins, myself, and Chavez have put up is meant to try to uphold this subcommittee recommendation by placing a monument commemorating the Civil Rights Movement, by placing a monument commemorating Reconstruction, and placing a plaque to clarify the significance of the Confederate monument. Also, we're going to request $85,000 of public funds be used. In the event we choose to move the monument, it's not going to be a timely process. We guarantee you, I'm sure, that there's going to be a lawsuit by the Daughters of the Confederacy. As this young gentleman said a while ago, just wait until renewal time comes. That's probably when that lawsuit will come before the Caddo Parish District Court. This is going to be a very drawn-out, long-out process if we decide to move this. Again, it is our decision, but I think in the spirit of compromise, same thing as Commissioner Atkins has said, Commissioner Chavez has said, that this is a good and workable solution to uphold and move forward with maintaining the monument and upholding the subcommittee's recommendation.
Okay. Commissioner Cawthorn for the first time.
Yeah, very briefly. I know you guys said you're going to explain on Thursday some of the more particulars of the decision of how you're going to construct the monument. The first question I want to ask, I know there was some discussion early on about constructing a monument to the civil rights movement on the other side of the courthouse. Do you know at this point, are they going to stand side by side? Who we going to, and I guess you guys haven't decided who we going to solicit as an architect or maybe a historian. And then the second part of the question is, it's almost an apples to oranges comparison. You know, the civil rights movement is a movement where you have people subjugated just fighting to be equal. As when you look at the Civil War, that's kind of a whole nother dynamic that kind of took place. So the point I'm making is that are we going to be? It's the 2 or 3 things you want to construct all going to be side by side one another.
Not necessarily. Can I answer that?
Okay.
We don't know the answer to those questions yet. We are trying to, and it is not resolved or said inside the subcommittee report. I think those are something that we will have to decide on and talk about at a future date, where we would place this other monument, where it would go, what type of monument. We're just submitting and recommending to the commission that they uphold in the spirit of the subcommittee's recommendation, that we will come up with $85,000. I think Commissioner Atkins and Chavez and I realize it's probably going to cost more than that to do that, so we're going to have to look at soliciting with private funds to get this done. So we'll probably end up having to do some more committee work to get something like that done.
Well, thirdly, and I also ask you guys this, so you read in your dissertation that the Civil Rights Monument that sits there now was to commemorate people who had fought in the war and who were citizens of Caddo Parish. I've heard some talk about erecting a statue for Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was a great man, did some outstanding things in the United States, and particularly the South. We've got nameless soldiers of the Civil Rights Movement that have worked here in the city of Shreveport. Will there be some considerations of adding those people to this proposed monument? Or you haven't thought to that extent at this point?
I'll take this really quick. I think actually this would be the point in history when we could come together to unify, to actually create the committees, to have the diverse people to sit on a board and give those recommendations. I think this would be the good opportunity that we need to have to come together as the parish to have those hard talks and say what's going to represent Caddo Parish in the civil rights, as unity, as coming together. So I love those questions. I'm looking forward to working with you with that.
Okay, I just want to put that before you guys. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Gage Watts for the first time.
Thank you. I'll be brief with this. I think that it was my desire that I would love for us to have come together with a plan that we could all be unified and collectively think in the same fashion for the best things to do for the citizens of Caddo Parish. Nevertheless, I do understand that this is something that we're not trying to hide from or trying to erase. But again, here we are talking about creating another committee to prolong what we just should make the decision to do. I do understand that it would be unified for us to come together and do something as far as civil rights in its proper place. But here we are again talking about putting something that would represent one class of people who came together for a common goal when we're leaving others out. So we'll have another issue. Maybe not now, but later on, someone will come and say, well, you didn't recognize me. So how many statues will we have to put on courthouse grounds to make it seem like that we're all unified? Is it actually necessary? I believe that we have just come to a point in our lives and where we are in this parish to separate the water from the mirage and do the right thing. And that is to put monuments in their proper place. So I cannot support this. Thank you.
That it?
That's it.
Before we go any further, Attorney Frazier. I think our system, Todd, are we good over?
We're back up now.
Okay, I think our system went down. Just for a purpose of having, or Todd, either one of the two or both, could someone check with the, do y'all know how far back the Caddo Registrar of Voter Rolls go? Does anybody know?
I don't.
Could we check with Ernie Roberson to see how far back the voter rolls go? And I'd like to know were there any registered African-American voters in Caddo Parish? When I don't, for some reason I don't have that, but I have these 1903 minutes. If someone could check to see if there were any registered African-American voters in 1903. And also,
passing jelly bean test.
Could someone check to see if there were any African-American police jurors in 1903? And if you could give me that information as well.
You know,
regardless of the outcome of the, I'm trying to wait for the screen to come back up, but regardless of the outcome of this vote, I would like to have that information just for clarification. Were there any African Americans on the voter rolls in 1903 when this vote was taken by the police jury, and were there any African Americans serving on the police jury when those votes were taken? Are we back up yet? Because
we'll have to get to.
I don't know who was where.
I think you were the last
I
and
was the
then
last one. I
second
was trying
round.
to see who was up. Mine went out here first.
I think Mr. Bowman was over there, and then
Okay, I just remember Gage Watts was the last, first time. I don't remember who was the second.
Mr. Bowman and Atkins.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go A, B.
Yeah,
Commissioner
that's fine,
Atkins.
that's good.
I'll yield. Thank you. I already was able to say what I need to say.
Oh,
That's okay. I just I have really a lot to say. I'm just so baffled. I guess we'll get to the particulars if we pass this on the who would be on the lawn. I'm just thinking back to like what Dr. Jones has said. Will we even have enough room on that lawn to construct somebody? And Martin Luther King is already where he's supposed to be on Martin Luther King Drive.
That's
That's
why
all
they
right.
straight out there, huh?
Yeah. That's all. Yeah.
All right, I'm back up over here. I'm still down over there. I have Lyndon B. Johnson.
Thank you. You know, in the subcommittee recommendation, they talk about the civil rights monument. Where do you start and where do you stop? I mean, right now, civil rights is still going on. And, you know, typically you look at Martin Luther King, but then there are a lot of other people who were important to civil rights. So where do you stop? You had the girls that were bombed in the Birmingham church. Do you not put them there? Do you not put Medgar Evers? Do you not put him there? I mean, then you have some people here. You got Reverend Harry Blake that was beat in Little Union. Do you not put him there? So where do you start? Where do you stop? And then $85,000, by the time you get an artist, then he gonna want the majority of that because that's what they do. And so he gonna be proud about what he's gonna put together, so he gonna want a hefty amount of that money. Then you have other nationalities that's gonna say, well, what about us? We wanna tell our story too on the courthouse grounds. I mean, it's a never-ending story. Every nationality will come and say they want their story to be told in the courthouse grounds. Where you put them? You put them on Texas Street side, you put them on Milam Street side. Where do you put them? Well, Shreveport was small, and basically I've heard that was called county downtown square or Shreve Square. But right now we're a metropolitan area, and you know, many people that's tourists don't ride through downtown Shreveport. They going through other parts of Shreveport. They going to the malls. They going to the shopping areas. They going to the casinos. They go to the sports arenas. They doing those things. They're not going through downtown just to look and see what we have in Shreve Square. So I think it has served its point of history, and now it's time to make new history. We're not trying to erase history because it was there. My ancestors, you can't erase what they went through. And so I'm not trying to erase history, just trying to put history in its proper place. And that should be in a museum and not from the courthouse. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Mills.
Thank you. About 3 weeks ago, my wife, myself, and some other friends, we visited Washington, D.C. On the Friday that we got there, we were able to make the Holocaust Museum. I thought, man, the atrocities, things that happened there. 6 out of 9 million Jews were extinguished because of that war. How sad, the atrocities there. What could beat that? On Sunday, and I'm probably one of the few ones in here that has attended the African American Museum that just opened, I think, December this last year.
Absolutely.
And I got to see the atrocities that happened there too. The things that happened is well put together. I highly recommend everyone to go see it because it does bring history together, unlike what the courthouse square ever will. But then, yeah, it did address the history about slavery. I hate it. I'd hate to know if any of my family participated in that in any way, shape, fashion, or form. I came up, I'm happy to yield to Mr. Smith as being the oldest up here, but I'm right there at second as far as commissioners go. And Woody, you're number 3. So you're not even. And we know how it was. We know how it was back then. We remember, and I remember things I had to do when I came down, and I remember the names that people were called. And I remember the things. I remember the colored only stuff and all that. I remember all that stuff. And I'm so glad it's not there today. I'm just so glad it's not. We've had a lot of people come out, and I appreciate the people who've come out. I appreciate the committee, what y'all did, whether it's stacked or not stacked, I don't know. But I look at it this way. I would say as far as both sides, we've had about 20, maybe 25, either for or 25 against removal, whatever. Where's the rest of the world? I mean, that's only 50 people, I would say, maybe 100 at most has come out. Does that mean the rest of the people either are for it to be removed, against it being removed? They don't really care, because this is a monument that was erected over 100 years ago, representing people that died over 150 years ago, whatever reason they were serving in the military, whether it's their own personal belief or whether they were conscripted to do there or they were signing up that $15 a month to fight on the bloodiest battle that ever happened on our country. Glad it's gone. I think we should continue to memorialize what happened. I think we need to find some kind of common goal. I don't think we need to be destroying just because the rest of the country's doing it, just because a political party says they need to eliminate these things, and eliminate George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and everything else. And where does it stop, folks? I wish we could help that to stop now. And also, I'm going to conclude with this. Louisiana has a revised statute 14:101, offenses affecting the public sensibility. 101 is desecration of graves. Number 2 in that says intentional or criminally negligent neglect. Intentional or criminally negligent damaging in any manner of any grave, tomb, or mausoleum erected for the dead. I rest. Thank you, sir. That's a criminal offense, by the way.
Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the discussion started with Commissioner Atkins. And I think it was so fitting that it would start with him because Commissioner Atkins started by expressing that he has no biases, that he has no, he holds no animosity and that type of thing. Of course, I'm the newest guy here. I've had the pleasure of working with him, and I don't feel that there's anything truer than that. So it's really unique in that respect. And after saying that, he was then able to give his position. Of course, I'm in a unique position because not only am I sitting before you, I'm sitting before you with the upcoming election, obviously. And so as I listen to the commissioners, and I think everyone has expressed their support and their respect for the body that did the, that came up the body that did these studies, that came back with the findings. I don't think that we could adequately thank them for their support and for what they've done and their sacrifices and their findings. So it is by no means to minimize that. But in my position, I've heard every commissioner up here at one point or another, and I won't call any by name, who have spoken on other issues and spoken specifically about the representation of their constituents, of the people in their districts and the things that they represent. And even though today's the people that came up today is not a good measure, I don't think, but I think it was clearly that there are people who feel a particular way and who support the thought and the position of removing the monument. And I think that in today's, as it relates to people who came forward today, obviously that was the greatest majority. My biggest challenge is that I've talked to people in my district who have approached me and who just takes it for granted that because I'm an African American and because I'm a new guy, that I simply automatically push a button. Nothing could be further from the truth. I have a background in the fire service, been a firefighter, lived at the fire stations, slept day and night with every group you can think of, men, women, black, white, and there's nothing that I have greater than my appreciation for diversity, my appreciation for all cultures. Also, in speaking, Commissioner Atkins said that he felt that it appears that maybe one group is getting more airtime or more thoughts than the other. That might be true. And I think that both sides should surely be heard and know that every side is as important as the other. But to the ones who are speaking I know that I hear Mike say it often, Mario, and others speak specifically about the people you represent. And in every other issue, I know that is what you consider even more so than anything else. And as much respect as I have for the findings of the body that came forward, the Confederate, what is the committee I'm trying to help?
Subcommittee.
Citizens Advisory Committee, who did a great job, and I very much appreciate your findings. And I think that for me, as a commissioner, to go only with the fact that this group have came with this findings and not to consider the constituents, and because I'm new, I'm holding and keeping emails. I'm keeping text messages. I'm keeping phone calls, and don't misunderstand me, I've gotten plenty that is against removing it. That is absolutely true, but the majority that I have gotten has put me in a position where I think that as much as I appreciate the subcommittee, I am tasked with representing the majority, and that's not the everyone. I'm sure that everyone has not called me, but we're putting a lot of information and a lot of weight on on that body, and I'm wondering how much are we putting on those people in our district. I know that's what I'm going to have to deal with at the end of the day, and however the chips fall for me, I'm okay with that. But I do want to express to this body that I am not just pushing a button, that I'm considering history, I'm considering heritage and pride, and those things are not to be minimized by anyone at all. But when I look at my numbers, when I count my emails, my text messages, much like the group that we came forward today, that has a lot to do with my position. Though others might think otherwise, it is from the people that have contacted me, the numbers that I've gotten, the calls that I've gotten. So that too is what I am basing my position on as it relates to today. But I think that this discussion today has been positive. I feel that even the spirit that we are speaking and communicating with today, I appreciate. Of course, it started with you, rightly so, because that's how you are. No matter what it is, no matter where you, and not him only, but John, no matter where he is, he's going to speak what he feels, but he's going to do so respectfully. I think that we should all take the same approach. And if there was some way that we as commissioners or parish leaders could affect the hearts and the minds, then we would not have to worry about the monuments. But right now we cannot change minds, and so monuments is what's at stake. So I have to use something in order to come up with a decision, and I am tasked with respecting every position and every citizen of this parish, and then identifying and weighing what the wishes of my constituents are. That is not to say, please call me on the one hand, but it is to say of the ones that have called, I think I've kept a pretty good tally in that respect. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. I just want to chime in here. I heard Commissioner Milton. I got myself and Gage Watts on. I heard Commissioner Milton talk about visiting Washington, D.C., and I just want to be clear. I know other folks have said, well, these places have monuments and those places have monuments, but I want to be very clear. We're talking about a monument that is sitting in front of a place of justice. The 13th, 14th Amendment, particularly the 14th Amendment, due process of the law. That's what came out of the Civil War, due process of the law. And we have a statue sitting in front of a legal institution. I don't mind visiting this statue because I'm a history buff. I've gone to Washington, D.C. and visited Manassas, visit the Battle on Bull Run. But when I go to the Supreme Court, I do not see a statue dedicated to Earl Warren. You're not going to find a statue or a bust dedicated to Justice Douglas or Hugo Black. You're going to find two statues, attorneys, in the room. That justice is blind. Lady Justice is blind with a scale, and it's balanced, it's equal. You're not going to find a statue dedicated to the first Supreme Court. So this notion that you know, we have to have history sitting there. I wouldn't mind visiting this at Northern Art Gallery or some other place where you could take in the emblems and opulence of the statue. What this is about is, for me, this is about a statue in front of a place of justice. And the individuals on that statue fought against what the 14th Amendment stood for, and the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery. So I can't support us keeping something in place. I think Commissioner Johnson said it earlier, the civil rights are caught on. Civil rights and Civil War are two totally separate things. One was about peace and equality and respect for individuals, human, God's individuals. The other one was a slaughter of one and the dehumanization of one. So let's keep this argument, let's keep this conversation, I won't call it an argument, let's keep this conversation about what this statue stands for and where it is. And it is in front of a place that is supposed to be the hallmark of justice. And when you go back and look at Black Stripes, which talk about all of the African American jurors that were dismissed from the jury pool, Carl Staples, on that list, that were dismissed from jury pools, were not able to do their constitutional obligation. But they were dismissed from serving, and this was in 2009? 2009. Not 1905, not 1903. This was in 2009, the 21st century. But we have this issue, and I believe the Black Stripes issue didn't end until 2013, where African Americans were just pulled off of juries. And that's a fact. That's not made up. And if you don't believe me, go look at it. It's out there. So let's I just want to make sure that when folks say, they talk about visiting Washington and stuff like that, I've been to the Supreme Court, I've been to the African American Museum, I've been to the Nazi Museum, I've been to the Holocaust, not the Nazi, I'm sorry, the Holocaust Museum. I've been to the Holocaust Museum, I've been to all those Smithsonian museums up there. But they have put those in places where they belong. You will not walk in front of the Supreme Court and see a statue dedicated to anybody other than Lady Justice. So I want to be clear on that. Commissioner Gates-Watts.
Call for the question.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Gates-Watts, second by Commissioner Johnson to call for the question.
We're voting on whether we vote.
Let's call for a question. I think this will get our system back up. Okay, the question has been called 11-1. The question has been called. Please vote on the motion.
Okay, I just want to make clear that this is
a motion to advance to Thursday.
Advance to Thursday, the resolution that Commissioner
Correct.
Atkins and Chavez and myself have
Correct.
put up.
That motion fails 6-6.
Next, we move to authorize resolution number 71 of 2017, amending the rules and bylaws of the Caddo Parish Commission regarding audit and finance subcommittee.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
Moved by the chair, second by Commissioner Matthew Lynn.
Mr. President, this actually will not be voted on Thursday. It has to
Correct.
lay over 2 weeks.
Right, until, yes.
October 5th.
And again, as the earlier one, if you want to get a synopsis on it, there is a synopsis attached to it. Feel free to reach out to myself or Ms. Bryant for information on it. Please vote. That passes 12-0.
Authorize resolution number 72, urgent equal funding for state-supported hospitals, encouraging collaboration between Biomedical Research Foundation, Ochsner's Health, and Louisiana State University Health Science Center.
Move to Thursday.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Lynn, second by Commissioner Bowman.
Sure.
Bowman. Commissioner, do you want to speak on your motion, Commissioner?
I just want to bring to the light that University Health, that Biomed, that LSU, that the Kings Highway Corridor needs as much help as they can get. And if the governor of Louisiana is willing to bring in a partner that would strengthen the relationship between University Health and the school, it being Ochsner's, I think that that would be fantastic for the community to have their expertise here as a choice in healthcare and their experience with schools and relationship with schools. I hope that we can encourage further conversations with the governor of Louisiana, with Ochsner's, and with LSU, and of course with the current manager of the hospital, University Health, to collaborate to provide more funding for University Health, or to provide more funding for Ochsner's if they're willing to come over and take that role. That's it.
Commissioner Atkins.
I share the authors of this resolution's desire to see a resolution with respect to Biomed and University Health, LSU, but it's a very complex issue, lots of moving parts. I fear that I don't know enough about this issue to really take a position on it. And although I share your desire to see a resolution, and I appreciate your desire to push for a solution to the issue, I personally don't feel like I'm qualified to vote on the matter, so I'll be voting no to advance.
Commissioner Milton.
I'll be voting no because I don't see where we have a dog in this fight, in the sense that what's this have to do with roads and taking care of the public infrastructure that we're supposed to be doing here? I just don't have to vote no, but I appreciate you bringing it forward. I think that the need is already in public pretty much. From the standpoint, the governor's standpoint, and everybody else's standpoint, I'm going to be voting no respectfully. Thank you.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Guys, I'm with you on, I'd like to see the school thrive here. And for some reason, I can't open up on mine, but I remember it won't work over here, Todd, but I remember something when I read this weekend about the Ochsner and them as a partnership, and I haven't reached out to the Biomed to see if they're interested in that. So I don't. This is one of those things where I think Atkins shares my views on urging other bodies to do their job, and I just don't feel like doing that. So I'm just going to vote no until I research this some more, guys. I was hoping to talk more about this, but that's my stance on it.
Vice President Dominic.
Yeah, I gotta agree with the same thing Commissioner Atkins, Chavez, and Middleton says, that said this over and over again, that I don't think this is really in our, if we want, I don't know, if it's a no-brainer, I say, or make it urge, that's fine, but, reading the paper, even was it yesterday, my local senator was saying some things like he wasn't for this, and I'm like Commissioner Atkins, I probably don't know enough about this to get involved in, and I don't think this is something we need to be involved in, and voting no.
Okay, that's it. I'll just point out that if there were some questions about this, my phone hadn't rung about it. I don't know about Commissioner Lynn, but okay. All right, that's it. Please vote to move to Thursday. That fails 6-6.
Authorize resolution number 73 to provide an annual certification to the State of Louisiana Department of Transportation Development in accordance with the Off-System Bridge Replacement Program.
So moved.
Where are we?
Second. Moved by Commissioner Dominic, second
Resolution number 73.
73.
Okay.
Moved by Commissioner Dominic, second by Commissioner Lyndon Johnson. Please vote. That passes 12-0.
Authorize resolution number 74, submitting to Governor John Bell Edwards a name for appointment for the membership on the Red River Waterway Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Bowman, second by the Chair. Please vote to move to Thursday. That passes 12-0. Next.
Authorize and request detailed progress reports and updates from entities receiving tax proceeds pursuant to Act Number 306 of 2015 regular session of the Louisiana State Legislature, and during the October 6, 2016 regular session of the Caddo Parish Commission. So that would be the Shreveport Sports Commission, the Independence Bowl, and the Arklatex Regional Air Service Alliance.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
Moved by Chair, second by Commissioner Atkins. Please vote to move to Thursday. And if we could just send them that letter like we did last year to ask them to come down, that should suffice.
I've went ahead and contacted two of the entities anyway.
Okay. That passes 11-1.
Authorize appointment, Caddo Parish Sewer District Number 7.
I make a motion that we move items Roman number 10, number 11, 12, 13. That's the 3 resolutions, Mr. Fed, the Pine Hill Waterworks, and also the Lakeview Waterworks to Thursday.
Moved by Commissioner Dominic, second by Commissioner Atkins to move those 3 appointments to Thursday. Please vote.
LBJ.
I'm sorry. Did you want to? I see Commissioner Gates Watts.
I was gonna move to Global and add number 15 also.
Okay.
I got a question on that.
Well,
You get where? 14. Oh, 15.
Yeah.
So
Oh, 15.
we don't want to add that.
15 is good.
15, yeah, that's fine.
15 and 16.
15, 16. Yeah, let's do 15 and 16 too, if that's
So we're
okay.
adding 15 and 16.
We'll come back to 14.
Okay. All right. So we add 15 and 16, and we're gonna come back to 14. You got that, Todd?
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. Please vote. All right. That passes 12-0.
Authorize appointment to Shreveport Bossier Sports Commission, appointment to replace Mr. John Escaday.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to just advance Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson.
Second.
Moved by Chair, second by Commissioner Gates Watts to advance Lyndon B. Johnson as a substitute motion. Commissioner Atkins, you on the board.
Thank you. I'm sure that LBJ would do a wonderful job in this role. However, just as a general policy, I think we're better off having someone not on the commission serving in that role, unless I'm missing something and there's a reason why a member of the commission should be on that role.
Okay.
So I propose that as a topic for discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Middleton.
I agree. I'll yield to Commissioner Johnson if he'd like to go first.
Okay.
Well,
Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I want to know too.
Attorney Frazier, I guess what I would ask is you research this, but in my recollection of what we discussed when we started forming this sports commission, that we had 2 spots, and initially had 1 spot, and then they came back and put in the advisory board. But the advisory board member was going to be a member of the commission. So if you would make sure that what I'm saying is truthful, that everybody will then understand that's the reason why one of the commissioners would need to be on the board instead of 2 outside individuals.
Mr. President, I can give you the point of information on that.
Go ahead.
The original deal was to add the director of parks from the city of Shreveport and from Bossier City, and that a member of the Caddo Commission and the Bossier Parish Police Jury be a member. They were non-voting members originally. They were later changed to voting members to help with quorums. So that's where we got that Mr. Escadate's appointment from the bottom.
Okay.
Well,
We need to move.
I have a comment.
I got you. All right. Commissioner Bowman.
Yes, sir. I just want to know, although we can have 2, and I have no problem with it being an appointment, I just don't understand what's wrong with Commissioner Middleton's suggestion.
Because we already have an appointment on the sports commission.
That's a non-commission.
Yeah,
Ken
Ante.
Yes. So there's already a non-commissioner on there.
So the only slot available is for commissioner.
Right.
For commission.
So I get
Okay.
a chance to speak eventually, right?
If you get
Yes, I
it.
do.
Press your button.
Commissioner Chavez.
Press your button.
Is that it, Commissioner Bowman? Or were
Yes,
you
sir.
asking him?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out.
I mean, Commissioner Chavez.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hold on, wait. You gotta get in the board.
Okay, go for it.
Go ahead.
No, go. Who's up?
We're about to move on.
Chavez, go.
I want LBJ on there. I think he does a great job, and he's very up on what's going on with sports in our local community. And I don't, there's very few people that are more researched than him. I know he's gonna do a good job for the commission, so I'm looking forward to him being on the board. That's it.
Commissioner Mills?
I think LB do good whatever he does, but to me, I'm just wondering why we can't have somebody else. If you looked at the application that was sent in by Michael Johnson, it's not our congressman, he's already got a program he's going that's helped develop some fantastic young golfers here, Sam Burns, Nathan Johnson, and Philip Barbary. He's already got some connections. I feel like that the purpose of this commission is to help to bring in additional events for that 3-night stay, 4-night stay, and things of that nature. Now, also, I noticed that some of the other things that this parish commission voted it should be, the CPRs, the health insurance and all that, that's gone away too. That was voted on by these commissioners that it should be that way, and those things have gone away to the wayside. And so now, to me, it's like a self-serving, having commissioners on there like that. I think we need to expand this out and have more involvement of the community, and I think this is an opportunity for this gentleman that expresses interest to be on it. I think it'd be a good opportunity to bring those 3- and 4-night stays into Shreveport. That's what we need. That's what the talk is about town, about the parish. We need to get some visitors in here, and let's see if we can get that done. And that's the reason I'd like to go ahead and continue Michael Johnson to Thursday also. Thank you.
The reason I made the substitute, because as I looked at it, I see that the gentleman, and I appreciate him for stepping forward, but all I have is about a 1 or 2 paragraph letter here stating his interest, but it's on either his company or organization's letterhead, and it looked like he has a sports interest. And so, Commissioner Milton, you talked about self-interest or self-serving. I would not want this gentleman, because I know the Sports Commission does a lot with trying to bring in those junior golf tournaments and stuff like that. I would not. I think I would feel bad myself if I set him up for such a position like this. If this was a non-voting membership, wouldn't see a problem, but he obviously has a vested interest in sports. So that's why I said you mentioned the self-serving aspect of it. There are some heavy things that Commissioner Johnson has to do with regard to ethics reporting. If he received any compensation or tickets or anything for serving on it, that he would have to disclose. So, not so sure about a private company or business either. So that's why I made that a motion. All right, no one else on the board, please vote to move. There's a substitute motion to only move Commissioner Johnson to Thursday.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, what are we voting on currently?
They have a substitute motion.
Move LB.
To move Linda Johnson
Thank you.
to Thursday. Please vote on the substitute motion. That passes 11 to 1. 11 to 1.
Next, we move to President's Report.
No. Oh.
Yeah.
Go about communicating.
Yeah.
It's for the guy. Oh, wow. Yeah, well, I had just kind of put a synopsis on here.
Move it to
for the
Thursday.
President's report. Do I need to move this to Thursday? Or I could just do it here now, because you can actually take
This would be a good time probably to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple of other folks met with the governor at a private luncheon that was out at Silver Star somewhere, so I thought I was just keeping commissioners informed, but I was not invited to that luncheon, so I just wanted to make sure I gave everybody an opportunity to be brief, as opposed, because there were some media folks waiting outside, so I just wanted to make sure that nobody kind of saw the news report before you at least got it from me. So, and I sent this out in an email on last Thursday as well, so I just wanted to be clear on that. Henri, since we're under committee reports, could you provide us with, or could you send me an email on how much money we have in that Safe Summer at some point? Could we do that? Do we have any left?
Yes.
Okay. And Dr. Wilson, I hadn't had a chance to get with Crystal, but I'm having a hard time tagging the social media, the Parish of Caddo on Facebook. So if I don't know what's going on with it, but I try to tag it on stuff that we're doing. Oh, I didn't know she's over there. Okay. I thought she was walking in and out. So if we could try to address that, because I at least try to, citizens want to interact and engage And if at some point maybe we could get an update on how that's going. I know there were issues when we initially thought this up, that people would be making all kind of outrageous remarks and threats and stuff, and so we'd like to just kind of get a preliminary quick shot on how they think it's going and what do we need to do to increase the participation on it. But I will tell you that I have received a lot of positive feedback out in the community. Chief Administrative Officer, CAO, Brian Crawford, stopped me at the intergovernmental meeting, and the chairman of the city council, they were excited to see that I don't know that they're using it yet, but they were excited about it, and they had a chance to go back and look at it. And what I appreciate, one person told me is available instantly. The information is available instantly. So I have received positive feedback. I don't know if y'all have received any as well. So if y'all could get that up for us. Also at our next meeting, I see him sitting back there, but I want to congratulate Clay Walker. He rides under the radar, but he was elected chairman of the Transformation Next advisory board, community advisory board. So if we could get them down, him and that group, any who are available, to just kind of talk to us about what they're going to be doing, and appreciate his work in that. And that's it for me. And Kelvin, look like the love bugs have gone. I don't want to talk them up, but I don't have any. I haven't had any. Okay, well, I don't want to talk them up, but I have not had any on my car lately, so I want to keep wherever I'm at there.
Get a white beard.
Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Next, that's it.
Next, we have administrative report.
Okay.
Yes, we have a few items today. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
How you doing?
Back on August the 2nd this year, Ms. Sydney Marcus, she's a local animal activist in our community. She had recommended that we reach out to a gentleman. His name is Mr. Brian Bent Tolliver, and he is the regional director from the Great Plains South Central Regional for the Best Friends Animal Society, and he'll be visiting our shelter tomorrow morning. He'll be arriving tonight, but he'll be at the shelter in the morning, and then we'll be meeting with several commissioners tomorrow, I believe, Matthew Lynn and Chavez and Middleton. You got invites to meet tomorrow at 2?
No.
I had some on my calendar a month or so ago, but I've never got a confirmation. What time? I have a funeral at 10:30. What time is it?
At 2 o'clock tomorrow. Mrs. Cindy Marcus told us she's been in touch with you all, so we kind of left it at that. But I'm kind of reminding you, because I'm trying to tighten that up.
2 o'clock tomorrow where?
Upstairs in the conference room on the 8th floor.
Looks like Chavez stepped out. Maybe we should text him.
We will. Yeah, she had, in her email, she said she had reached out to you all on her emails. So I assume you've been getting the communications.
I just hadn't had anything of recent, so.
Oh, okay.
I had it in my calendar, but I wasn't sure.
Well, is this another opportunity for us to take a look at best practices that's going on in Austin, Texas? He was very instrumental in helping them in Austin, so they'll be here tomorrow talking with us on our shelter. Okay. Also, I just want to remind you all that this Friday we have a budget retreat with the commissioners at 9 a.m. at the Speckleville Business Center. So we'll be presenting you all the operational budget for 2018 this Friday morning at 9 o'clock. So we appreciate you all being there. And also, you have at your station a copy of the audit that was done with the Homeland Security Office. They did a great job, so you can read that at your leisure. And pretty much that concludes my admin report for you today, unless you have some questions for me. Oh, by the way, Commissioner Jackson, I put at your desk and all the members of the Animal Welfare Committee the letter that you asked me for. So I'll just wait to hear from you all.
Okay, we'll schedule them.
And let me know what y'all want to do.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. President, can I ask a quick
go
question?
ahead, sure.
Dr. Wilson, or Ms. Bryant, can y'all remind me, I've been to a couple of those budget reviews. How many hours might we budget for that?
Half a day.
Half a day, thank you. That's it, sir, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner, he's gone. Commissioner Lynn.
This is not related entirely to that. First, I want to read Commissioner Chavez's
Not yet,
letter.
but
I apologize. I
Go
thought we
ahead.
were going to communicate. I'm sorry.
Okay, next we move to communications and committee reports. Please note that the commission will sit as a tax board review Thursday, September 21st, during our regular session. And we do have two items to listen to people that may be appealing, so it should not take long, but it will be part of our regular session meeting.
Okay, thank you. And now we're,
Yes.
okay, Commissioner Lane, I apologize.
Commissioner Chavez left me a note stating that he is at the Boy Scouts of America event at Fairfield Elementary, I believe, retiring U.S. flags in case anybody had to go. And so we had an old flag that needed to be retired in a proper fashion. There is a water study meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I want to say, 3 o'clock. When is it, Ken? 3 o'clock also down here that has been scheduled for a month.
What committee?
Natural resources. And I asked that we get a whiteboard and somebody to write on the whiteboard. Dr. Wilson, can you get us a whiteboard and somebody to write? I don't want Mr. Ward to do the writing. No, it's in this room. I don't want Ken Ward to do the writing because he's going to be doing the talking, so we need some assistance with that. And then that will keep me from attending the other meeting that I had not heard of until right now. And there's also a committee meeting immediately following this meeting. That's it.
All right. Commissioner Gates Watts.
Thank you. Mr. Glass, if you would come up 1 second. We began a conversation earlier talking about a drainage problem over on Denny Drive, and I had some more information to give to you so that when you do send me the email, you can also research that.
With the map attached too, showing exactly where it all is.
Okay, because she said that she has a complaint about a home in front of her also, that the sewer drainage is running from that home also. So it's septic tank issues, all kind of things that are tied in with that. So you can have that for that email as well, so we can make sure that we get her taken care of. And I just received an email from a constituent on Faith Street. I'm going to forward it to you. There are several homes in that area. It's a property standards issue in deplorable condition. I don't know how they got this far, but they definitely need to be attended to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't go nowhere, Robert, because I'm up next.
Is that it? Commissioner Gates Watts?
One other thing, but I'll wait until he gets through with them, and then I'll call Director Wilson.
Okay. Commissioner Lyndon Johnson.
Robert, 2 questions. Where are we at on the properties that we voted on, the demo?
I think he's getting the contracts put together to knock them all down. They have I think he has, we did 12, I think he's got 6 that he's already taken care of. But I can get you those, I can get you that, and I'll email you the exact.
Okay, second question is, the old Brinkton plant, they used to make the laboratory tests. Before that, it was Walmart, the distribution center.
Yeah.
Right now, someone is coming there and putting wrecked cars in the parking lot.
I have
So we need to try to get on top of that before it turns into a salvage yard.
I'll check it out.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. That's it. Robert, before you go, hazardous mitigation grant funding. When we get our next allocation, could we please look at purchasing those properties on Wells Island Road? I don't know. I'm not sure how y'all determine what properties will be purchased, but I know I have somebody that's looking.
We have some volunteers that want to be on the list.
Well, this particular piece of property is adjudicated.
No, sir, it was a repetitive flood.
Well, it's been flooded. Yeah, Wells Island, the problem we had on Wells Island Road, it always floods.
Yes, if they choose to participate, we do ask them.
Well, could somebody give some guidance on if it's adjudicated? Do we contact the owners to see if they want to buy out, or can we? I don't want to say the E word, the bad E word, but could we, take that route? But I notice people are starting to gain an interest, and what I don't want us to do is have somebody buy adjudicated property there, and then they turn around and come to us asking for buyout funding, and we can just go ahead and buy it out, clear and free. So yeah, appreciate you, Robert. Appreciate you, Dr. Wilson. I see Commissioner Gates Watt wanting to come back to her, so I'll be back to you.
I was just gonna ask, thank you, Director Wilson, if you would, that same area, 3600 block of Faith Street, if you could make sure that they could spray, you could spray for mosquitoes in that area, so they cannot even go outside because of these conditions. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Lynn?
I want to thank Animal Services for the support that they gave to the Highland Jazz and Blues Fest this weekend, and also the appreciation that for them helping me with a little Rocky raccoon that was coming out in the daytime at my house.
Rocky.
Also, Dr. Wilson, were you able to get a hold of NLEP for them to be at the meeting tomorrow on the water study, a representative?
No, sir, but I'll make sure someone's there.
Thank you. All right, that's everything.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lynn. Commissioner Bowe?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just wanted to announce that the NGO appropriation meeting will be Thursday at 1:30, 1:30 p.m.
All right, is that it?
1:30. That's correct.
Is that it? Okay. And,
hi Larry, hi Mr. Marvin and other people. Apparently, this Facebook thing that you have going is working because people. Oh, sorry. I rewinded. The thing that we have going. Thank you.
Appreciate you, my brother. All right. That's it. Just want to note that Commissioner Atkins, if you could schedule an economic development committee so we can get the IDB appointments up and going. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Citizen comments, late arrivals? I have none. So, next we have consent agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner Lyndon Johnson, second by Commissioner Gates Watts. No objection. Meeting adjourned.
I remember.